Welcome to the PairRec San Fran Tourism channel. Our goal is to help you find your point of entrance by showcasing the top attractions in the San Francisco Bay Area. Today's focus will be phase 3 of a series of adventures focusing in on Bodega Bay, which is in Sonoma County. Our main objective is to showcase all the attractions and the points of interest along Highway 1 north of San Francisco, literally from Bodega Bay all the way up to Mendocino. If you're new to our channel, yes, please don't hesitate to subscribe, like, comment, share. Don't forget to hit that like button. With that being the case, let's get started. Now, Bodega Bay is roughly about an hour, 15-minute drive north of San Francisco. You could essentially Google the directions to get to Bodega Bay, but you'd be going northbound over the Golden Gate Bridge, and then you'd be taking Railroad Avenue. And from there, as I said earlier, you would just Google the directions to get to Bodega Bay. Specifically, we're focusing in on the Bodega Head area of Bodega Bay, which offers kayaking, sailing, fishing, many water activities. But also there's some trailheads here as well, which is going to be kind of our main focus. Phases 1 and 2, I put links in the description before. We focused in on pretty much coming off of Highway 1, going westbound towards Bodega Head, which is in Bodega Bay. And I said earlier, today we're going to feature some of the trails that are in Bodega Head of Bodega Bay. Now, today's weather in Bodega Bay is 63 degrees Fahrenheit with 76% humidity, 9-mile-an-hour winds. And today's date is Wednesday, November the 4th, 2020. Time is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, we'll also be providing chapters throughout the course of the video, and that's where we'll designate timelines. You'll find them in the description below, where you can identify specific areas within the video that you would like to focus in on. This will make it easier for you to really sift through the video and determine which areas of interest you might find that's important to you in regards to the points of interest here in Bodega Bay. So please feel free to check the timelines that are in the descriptions to help you better navigate through the video. Now, this particular trailhead we're going to be focusing in on is kind of hidden, which makes it special in terms of the points of interest in Bodega Bay. And that is just off of West Shore Drive. The official address, you can call it, is 3799 West Shore Drive. It doesn't have a directional sign leading you into the trailhead, but nevertheless, this is one of the areas where you can park upon finding. It's right across the street from the West Shore Regional Campground park area. So those of you that have an RV van, you can park and camp out there, and then you come right across the street over to the trailhead. I featured that in phase 2 of my journey in Bodega Bay. Now, here's another shot of the entrance to the trailhead. Now, you also have the opportunity to drive into the trailhead off West Shore Drive, and then there's some more turnouts when you turn left up here in a minute that you can park and then continue your journey throughout the trailhead. Now, once you get inside the trailhead, here's a kind of like a miniature sign indicating where you're at within the Bodega Bay trailhead. It says, "Welcome to Bodega Bay. You are standing on the San Andres Fault." So now we're going to continue our journey going northwest throughout the trailhead. Our ultimate goal is to take you out to the Pacific Ocean. Now, if you look just a few feet from where we're at, you'll see that little mountain ridge. That's where I'm going to take you, because I saw someone a few days ago that was hiking up on that ridge, and that's how I became aware that this is indeed a trailhead. So our goal is to take you up that mountain ridge as we continue our way towards the Pacific Ocean. Now, just along this trailhead, as you can see, there's West Shore Drive. That's the road that you're going to take that's pretty much connects with another road that connects to Highway 1. Again, I put a link in the description for Phase 2 as I emphasize West Shore Drive. Continuing our journey along the Bodega Bay Trailhead. Now we're going to turn right along the trailhead as we head up to the top of the mountain ridge. However, before we do, I want to show you some of the advantages of being along the trailhead, and that is bird watching. I believe that might be a black hawk that's in the air, and you see several of them here. Currently I see two more here on the right hand side here. So that's one of the many things you'll be able to observe when you come out to Bodega Bay, is bird watching. As you can see, there's a few hikers on the top of the mountain ridge as well. As I'm going up, it looks like they're coming down. Heading up the hill. Now, they do have some rules in regards to being on the trail. No camping, no pets, and also no fires, no campfires. Well, from getting to the top of the mountain ridge, one of the things I see that's special about it is the views of the Bodega Bay. I featured a lot of the Bodega Bay points of interest in phases 1 and 2. I'll put a link in the description below. But the views right at the top of being on this ridge are wonderful. Here's another shot of the Bodega Bay. Now this angle is where a lot of the boats would head out fishing, if they're going fishing or sailing out towards the Pacific Ocean from the Bodega Bay. Now we're looking westbound towards the Pacific Ocean. That's where we're going to be headed, but also, as you can see, there's some more mountain ridges throughout this specific area of the trail. Continuing our journey along the trail. More wonderful views of the mountain ridge trail. Here's another great shot of West Shore Drive along with some redwood trees to the left. Here's the view from where we came on the ridge, and this is the south view. Now continue our journey going northwest towards Pacific Ocean. As you can see, the trailhead is getting a little bushy, but you can still walk through the trail, through the bushes, that is. Now at this point throughout the trail, you can see, though it's very kind of bushy, you can definitely walk through the weeds and or bushes. As we approach the ocean, you can hear the ocean breeze in the background, so we're definitely getting closer. So now looks like we have two directions you can go. One is turning to your right, going northbound, and then the other is going to be, as I'll show you in a minute, turning south, going southbound. Now here's a nice directional sign. Directional sign indicating, to your right was where we came. This where West Shore Regional Park is, and then if you're going northbound, as indicated earlier, so it's the Bodega Dunes campground. Now here's the view looking southbound. So we're going to go this segment of the trail as we head towards the ocean. One thing that's special about being next to the ocean when it's fogged in like it is today is you can see how the fog comes in off the ocean. And there's another bird in the background for more bird watching activities. Here's another great shot of the birds in the sky. I believe they're black hawks, I'm not for certain. But I emphasize this on phase 1 and 2, that in the Bodega Bay there's also more bird watching activities. you'll see some pelicans, some seagulls, and a few other types of birds. Well, here's another nice directional sign that lets you know how many miles away are the next points of interest. Looks like to your right, where we came from, is the Bodega Dune campground, as well as the West Shore Regional Park, from which we came. To your left, we have the riding and hiking loop, which essentially is to your left and to your right. And then westbound is Salmon Creek Beach, and that's where we're going to be headed. Salmon Creek Beach is 0.8 miles. The West Shore Regional Park is 1.3 miles. Bodega Dune Campground is 2.4 miles. Now just a few feet from the other sign is yet another directional sign indicating Horseshoe Cove Overlook, which is where we were at, and then the Bodega Head Trailhead, the beginning of the trailhead, from which we came. The Horseshoe Cove Overlook is about 1.9 miles away, and the Bodega Head Trailhead is 2.7 miles away. Actually, going back to the initial first sign, I was misreading the mileage in terms of getting to the points of interest. KM is kilometers, so Salmon Creek Beach, from which we're headed, is 0.8 kilometers away. And then the mileage is to the right, shows 0.5 miles away. So kilometers are to the left, mileage is to the right. It's not bad for a good signage. Continuing our journey towards the beach, or towards the ocean. So now it sounds like we are getting closer towards the beach. So the Sand Dune Trail is relatively easy to follow during the day, but you probably wouldn't want to be up here at night because you could probably get lost. So now we're really getting close to the beach. As you can see there, we're approaching some picnic tables that are surrounded by the mountainous sand dunes. Here's some more individual shots of the mountain sand dunes. And here's the direction from which we came within the sand dunes. So these are the two picnic tables. For those of you who want to have lunch, network with your colleagues, family members before you head out to the beach. So now we're entering the last phase within the sand dunes as we head towards the beach. So now we can see just a few feet away is the actual beach, although the fog is in pretty good today, so we won't be able to see a whole lot, or as much as I wanted to show you. But nevertheless, we will go out to the beach. So here's more bird watching activity just before we approach the beach. Beautiful, isn't it? So here we are. We're at the beach. We made it. It took about an hour walk. You probably could do a little faster if you ran, maybe. But nevertheless, it is very fogged in, so we're not going to be able to see as much as we would like. So as you can see, we made it. And the beach is wonderful as ever. More wonderful shots of the beach. Now I'm going to give you some more individual close-up shots of the beach. In case you decide to wade in the water, it's great for being with your family or friends if you enjoy being in the water. In some segments that I've shot throughout, like the Pacific Ocean and in San Francisco, I see people fishing in the water as well as wading and swimming. So you do have several options for being on the beach. Well, I was going to take you and show you more views of the beach, but as you can see, it's extremely fogged in today, so we're going to turn around and head back towards West Shore Drive and try to identify a few other scenic points of interest. So you can see there's also horseback riding within the trails as well. I mentioned some of that in phase 1 of Bodega Bay, that you could contact one of the companies that offers horseback riding services. So you can meet at the horseback equine Trailhead parking lot, and from there you can do your horseback riding out to the beach. But nevertheless, I'll put a link in the description for some of the services that provide horseback riding out here. Meanwhile, we're going to continue our journey going back towards the entrance of the trailhead. We're going to take a different route going back as we head towards West Shore Drive. Well, along this area of the trail, we're entering the University of California Bodega Marine Reserve. I saw the entrance along West Shore Drive. I didn't think they had any services for public access, but it appears that the sign that it does. For instance, the sign reads, "You're entering the Bodega Marine Reserve and ecological reserve for teaching and research. This trail provides a public route between the Salmon Creek Beach and Bodega Head areas of Sonoma Coast State Park. Please stay on the trail. Access to other areas of the reserve is by permit only. Dogs, horses, and bicycles are not permitted. Bodega Marine Reserve and Laboratory can be viewed from the public overlook on the hill to the south. The lab provides public tours on Fridays from 2 to 4 p.m. Enjoy your hike." So, although as we showed you earlier, there was some horseback riding access just to the west of us, in this particular area, there's no horseback riding allowed. Now, upon returning back to the trailhead entrance, I've decided to drive out to where the Bodega Head trail. There's another Bodega Head trailhead that if you exit out from where we entered the initial trailhead, which I showed you earlier, and then you want to head westbound on West Shore Road, all the way out to the very end, and then you just veer to your right, and you'll find this trailhead. Because if you veer to your left, you'll find the trailhead that will give you views of the Bodega Bay. But if you turn to your right, when you see the Y exit, you'll wind up in this trailhead, which will give you spectacular views of the ocean versus views of the Bodega Bay. So let's turn our attention to the sunset that's at this Bodega Head trailhead, which is really quite extraordinary. As you can see, there are parking options in this trailhead, and there's also a restroom in the back area, far end of the trailhead. The sunset's going to set at another 5 or 10 minutes, so let's check that out. Now, as you can see, it's quite extraordinary in that earlier today, we saw how the ocean was just covered with fog. And within the last hour, it's just cleared up. And now it's to the point where you can get a clear, unobstructed view of the sunset and of the ocean. Let me show you some angles of the ocean, some individual shots. So turning our attention away from the sunset, you'll see the cliff areas, and adjacent is to the beach. But again, we weren't able to see any of this just a couple hours ago. Yet another wonderful shot of the sunset. Now here's a look at the beach area that's adjacent to the Bodega Head trailhead. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are several parking options within the trailhead, but you can see here you can park towards the end of the trailhead and while you watch the sunset. That's what several cars are doing right now. Yet another wonderful shot of the sunset. Now, just at the end of the trailhead is another mountain area, cliff area, where you're going to be approaching the end of the cliff, where you'll get even a greater view of the sunset. So let's go inside the cliff, or near the cliff. Now here's another wonderful view of the sunset on top of this cliff, which, as I said earlier, is just on the edge of the trailhead parking lot. Now we're getting even closer to the sunset. So here's a view of the parking lot from the cliff area. Yet another wonderful shot of the sunset. The other thing that's great about watching the sunset and the ocean from this cliff is you can also see the ocean waves as they approach the cliff rocks. Final shots of the sunset. Closing in on the sunset. Sunset's final departure. Wonderful shots of the waves as they approach the rocks. More stunning views of the hillside cliffs along the ocean. More stunning views of the hillside cliffs. Here's some great shots of the after sunset effect of the ocean. There are also more hillside cliff areas where you can walk up to the top of the cliff and absorb spectacular views of the ocean and the sunset. As you can see, the cliffs are very steep, so you don't want to get too close, otherwise you might end up falling to your death. I believe there's even more trails that are along the edge of the cliff. Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. There's even more trails that are along the edge of the cliff. It's really extraordinary. So this site along the cliff, according to this sign here, was created as a tribute to our men and women who make their living from the sea, and the memorial to those who lost their lives to it. So here's more views of the memorial. Here's a information post along the trail which talks about the history of the fishing culture along the Sonoma coast. Continuing along the hillside cliff trail. Here's a nice view of a very, very small beach area adjacent to the hillside cliff. More shots of the mini beach. So you can see the trail along the cliff continues at a considerable length. Here's yet another wonderful shot of the after sunset effect. That is, after the sunset has set in the ocean. So you can see the trail runs, appears to be maybe miles along the cliff, which is really extraordinary. Now on the opposite end of the view of the ocean is also a partial view of the Bodega Bay, and you can see the road leading up to the Bodega Bay Trailhead. And there's also bird watching activities along the hillside cliff area. Here's some absolutely spectacular views of the hillside cliff, which is adjacent to the trail, but as I said earlier, you don't want to get too close to the edge as you might fall down to your death. As you can see, there's kind of like a mini trail that runs really close to the edge of the cliff. Now how about that shot of the glow of the after sunset effect? Stunning. As you can see, the edge is quite steep down to the end of the water. Yet another wonderful shot of the after sunset effect. Now this shot shows that there are essentially 3 trails that break off along the cliff area here. So you have several options for stunning views along the cliff. How about this view of the hillside cliffs? Now here's a trail that's leading to the edge of another hillside cliff. You can see how the birds are flying just along the ocean there together at a distance. Now here's a panoramic view of the ocean from this particular hillside cliff. Yet another stunning view of the after sunset. So you can see the trail just continues for miles on end along the hillside cliffs here. Who knows how far they go. So this concludes our Phase 3 film shoot of Bodega Bay. If you like what you saw and learned, I would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share with your family and friends. Don't forget to log on to my website as well, where you can visit my blog and get more details about all the journeys, adventures throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. The website is PairRec.com. That's PAIRREC.com. Also, when you're there, subscribe to my newsletter, where you can learn about discounts and promotions on tours, attractions, lodging, dining, shopping, wine tasting, and more. And finally, don't forget to tune in to our next phase as we continue our journey along Highway 1 north of San Francisco from Bodega Bay as we head towards Mendocino. That's all for now, and we'll see you on the next film shoot. Goodbye.